After shutting down the government and promising America that he would focus most of his attention on domestic affairs, Trump turned his attention to New York, where an alleged Democrat, but in reality a typical neo-fascist, anti-capitalist, and Islamist, was present. Mamdani challenged him either to a duel or to a contest to see who could eat more sausages.
We will hire thousands of teachers. We will cut the excesses of bloated bureaucracy. We will work tirelessly to reignite the light in the corridors of Nake's apartment complexes, where it has long been flickering. Safety and justice will go hand in hand as we work with the police to reduce crime and create a Department of Public Safety that will address mental health and homelessness crises directly. Excellence will become the expectation in all branches of government, not the exception. In this new era that we are creating for ourselves, we will refuse to let those who trade in division and hatred pit us against each other. In this moment of political darkness, New York will be a light. Here we believe in protecting those we love. Whether you are an immigrant or a member of the transgender community, one of the many black women whom Donald Trump fired from federal jobs, single moms still waiting for grocery prices to drop, or anyone else who found themselves in a tough situation, your struggle is our struggle too. And we will build a city hall that will firmly stand with the Jewish residents of New York and will not back down in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism.
So he intends to fight against himself.
Where are we? More than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not only in the 5 districts of this city, but also in the corridors of power. New York will no longer be a city where you can use Islamophobia and win elections.
Don't you think he's interested in Muslim affairs? Well, a little more than Jewish affairs.
This new era will be defined by competence and compassion, which for too long have been set against each other. We will prove that there is no tribe too large for the government to handle and no concern too small to be cared for.
That is a complete reversal from all the principles of the American Revolution to the Constitution of the United States of America. In our country, we believe that Ronald Reagan formulated this, basically a statement clear to Americans. You, the governors, don't meddle in our affairs. We elected you to protect us, but you are trying. You are trying to enslave us, ladies and gentlemen. And then there were direct, foolish attacks against the president.
After all, in the end, if anyone can show the nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it's the city that gave birth to him. And if there's a way to scare a despot, it's to destroy the conditions that allowed him to accumulate power.
I've already said that the conditions that allowed Trump to get rich are called the free market. They're called freedom and capitalism in general. So, Mandami calls the environment where Trump developed, meaning he calls to destroy it so that people like Trump won't appear again.
This is not only how we stop Trump, but also how we stop the next one. So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn it up.
The crowd of fans is in complete delight. Go ahead, do whatever you want. We're challenging you to a fight. We
will hold dishonest landlords accountable because the Donald Trumps of our city have become too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxes and exploit tax breaks. We will support unions and expand labor protections because we know, just like Donald Trump, that when working people have unshakable rights, bosses who try to intimidate them become very small. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, driven by immigrants, and from tonight, led by an immigrant.
Well, that is, workers of the world, unite. We declare war on profit. We declare war on those who want to control their own property. Oh my God, how terrible. They want to control their own property. Because we are 100% sure that we will succeed in something that no one else has ever succeeded in, something that goes against human nature, something that always leads to disaster. Well, yeah, today in New York, look at me. I'm so handsome, smart, and curious. Well, I can come up with something else. I'll succeed at everything. And it doesn't matter that I don't have the slightest bit of evidence. Not a single proof. There's even a 1% chance that our people have it. That from our crazy utopian days, there will be at least some kind of success. Let's try to look at Mandami's ideas and figure them out. Let's say his most popular idea is free buses or free public transportation. I still didn't understand what he means. Well, maybe for the poor, yes. But for everyone, probably not. That's $4.2 billion a year. So let's say for the poor, yes. That is, 1 million poor people. Various economists tried to calculate it and came to the conclusion probably of what he meant. There are about 1 million people there who are poor who will receive some cards with which they will get on buses and ride for free. That is, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, this organization that manages the buses, the subway, and so on, will not be receiving, let's say, income from about 1 million people. Maybe they'll launch new buses for them. I don't know, but that's not important. Something else matters. So they've calculated that Mandami needs to find at least $800 million every year in order to somehow transport this 1 million people back and forth for free. Now, the problem is that this very Metropolitan Transportation Authority, which is the main organization responsible for transportation in New York, I think it's called the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. I could be wrong, so forgive me for God's sake. I was in New York so many years ago that I just don't remember what it's called. It fell short by $300 million last year. So there's the state of New York, and there's New York City, and then there's the state of New York. The state of New York reimbursed the city for that money. The New York governor said she has elections in November and must run for re-election next year. And for her, that means Liza Stefanik is already getting on her nerves. And it's quite possible, so to speak, that she might get elected instead of her. And Stefanik is a Republican who was appointed by Trump, so to speak, to the United Nations. He then recalled her, asking her to return to Congress, because, so to speak, they couldn't afford to lose even a single seat in order to pass various bills there. So the governor of New York, has already said that she won't give a single penny for these projects, let alone $800 million. That leaves only one option for Mamdani, namely to raise taxes on the city's residents. Well, for something at least, it doesn't matter, somewhere to raise some kind of taxes for something. But there's one very small technical problem here. According to the laws of the state of New York, well, the state of New York is the state of New York. No city in the state, including New York City, has the right to independently add or change taxes. It does not. It's simple. That means the city government doesn't have the right to do this. And when the governor was asked, will you allow New York City to introduce a tax on buses? No, said Governor Kathy Hochul, absolutely not a single cent. He is elected, she is supposed to be elected in a year, and raising taxes doesn't help with getting reelected at all. Question, where then? So, Mamdani will take $800 million. In fact, not just $800 million, but $800 million every year. Answer, nowhere. He never intended to. He just fooled the idiot voters. His assistants knew perfectly well that they had no right whatsoever to impose or collect any taxes. The party's left wing is calling for the governor's removal. She might face assassination attempts soon since she's seriously hindering them. In the city, in the state, the leftists are demanding the abolition of the police and higher taxes on the rich. Well, to put it in plain Russian, they're Arabs, Arabizers. They're Arabizers, so we're going to Arabize them. And, well, kind of radical measures regarding housing. What does that mean? Young fascists are demanding to ban landlords from raising rent across the entire state and are threatening the lives of those who stand in their way. There were arrangements with the former mayor of New York, who is finishing his term in just over 50 days, which means he will stop being mayor and leave. The White House agreed to give the city $18 billion for the two largest infrastructure projects, including the construction of a tunnel. So under the Gubzon, under the Hudson, as I understand it. Under the Hudson, maybe? No, I don't know. I think it's under the Hudson. And the subway line extension into Manhattan, those were, well, serious projects. This is significant help for the city in providing jobs for construction workers and easing traffic between New York and New Jersey. Trump, who said he would check whether he was ready to give these funds to the new team, withdrew these generally large sums. This $18 billion sum is extremely serious. And let's say now, after these projects won't move forward, at least in the near future, we don't know, right? Then thousands of jobs will be lost. Tenders for local businesses will not take place. That is, local businesses usually get quite a lot of, so to speak, benefits, orders, and so on. Such large projects. Now long-term tax revenues go to the city, and there is always hope for the development of the surrounding areas. Stopping the projects will undermine the economic planning of the city's services. In 26, New York could have received grants besides these $18 billion over there. Expansion of fiber optic development. There are grants for the development of municipal technologies. There's expansion and modernization of the water supply, grants for greening, and so on and so on. So, after Mandami's speech with his challenge to the president and his accusations against the federal authorities, it looks like all these grants will be shelved.
Well, like maybe sometime later, not now, someday. Now it's not just Trump. Mandani seems to be undermining himself because of his mathematical and economic illiteracy. He seems to fundamentally misunderstand how tax brackets work. I don't know if you've heard about this, but during his campaign, Mandani promised what he called a modest $20,000 tax increase for millionaires. Now, he told voters that anyone who earns $1 million a year would pay an additional $20,000 under his 2% millionaire tax. All right, sounds reasonable, right? There's just one problem. That's not how marginal tax rates work.
It's time to explain. New York doesn't collect a certain percentage of your entire income. It's more complicated than that. For example, if you earned up to $12,000, you were taxed 3%. That's $360 from $12,000. If you earned somewhere between $12,000 and $25,000, let's say $25,000, then you were taxed. The difference is $25,000 minus $12,000 or $13,000 at 7%, which is another dollar. $481. The next threshold is $25,000 to $50,000 at 8%, adding $950. If you earn more than from $50,000, let's say. He says everyone who earns $1 million up to $1 million, they pay 39,000%. That is, if you received $1 million, it would be $37,050. So the total recipient. So someone received in New York $1 million, and he will pay the city. It's one amount for the state, another for the federal government, but for the city, it's $38,841. Subtitles added by Mandani. He can't change this four-tier system, he added. He can't raise taxes on citizens, he says. I'll make those who earn $1 million pay an extra 2% and we'll get 20% from each of those super rich people. He added that people with incomes over $1 million pay 40% of all the city's revenue. The mayor and the city council can only ask them to pay more to make them give, on top of everything they already pay, another $20,000 to the city. They can't. But then why does Mandani say that he will make the rich millionaires pay an extra $20,000 each? Daily, yearly, daily, they can do it daily. By the way, he's just lying, that's all. Well, I mean, suckers are being led to the ballot box. Nothing else. What do you think the Bolsheviks did?
New York Governor Kathy Hochul is quietly stifling Mandani's agenda from Albany. And here's the devastating twist. She supported him, right? Hochul publicly supported Mandani against former Governor Andrew Cuomo back in September, taking advantage of his wave of popularity. But now that he has actually won, she is systematically breaking every promise he made to the voters. She already said he was promised. The promise to abolish bus fares and make public transport free is dead. It just won't happen. And now, if Mandani can't raise taxes, he's doomed. Every promise he made, from free buses to universal childcare, from city grocery stores to a rent freeze, was doomed from the start. Mandani's entire platform depends on a massive tax increase that will never happen. His team estimates that just the universal childcare system alone would cost between $5 and $8 billion a year. Add free buses for $700 million rent freezes, city-run grocery stores, and you get over $10 billion in new annual expenses. And his only funding plan is a 2% millionaire income tax, which he has completely miscalculated. And raising the corporate tax rate from 7.25% to 11.5%, which is already making business owners and investors leave the city. Remember, capital is mobile, capital moves. So when companies face losses due to taxation, what do? They leave. And when they do, they take everything with them. Direct tax payments, jobs, income taxes, sales taxes from employees, property taxes. What's left? Empty buildings. We've already seen the start of this mass exodus. I mean, real estate prices in Florida have skyrocketed. They estimate $100 million in real estate investments flowed in just last week, and not only in Florida. We're hearing that New Hampshire is attracting a lot of attention from business owners and residents who just want to escape the crazy taxes in New York, but still stay in the Northeast. So, I mean, again, you just can't make this stuff up. Mamdani is now facing an impossible situation. He's being threatened from Washington. He's being threatened from Albany since Hochul refuses to approve tax increases, leaving him without revenue and without fulfilled promises. And he's being threatened from Wall Street as business leaders are fleeing and capital is evacuating. One association estimates that $8.7 billion are already being redirected. As we speak, to Florida. Actually, it's 3 states, Florida, Texas, and Tennessee. The tragedy unfolding in New York is what happens when revolutionary rhetoric meets basic arithmetic.
That's right, when there's somewhere to go. It's exactly those who support the city, the mayors, the city councils, the subway, the schools, and the infrastructure, They leave for places where they're offered better conditions for living and doing business. In Nuona, the vacated places, homeless people flood in, but also illegal immigrants and even criminals. And the city turns into, well, that 42nd Street and the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood. So, the kitchen, those that existed before Giuliani. I lived there in the 80s, in the very early 80s. It wasn't for the faint of heart. And drugs, drunk thieves, cheap street prostitutes, weapons, pimps, turf wars, and filth. Filth, pickles, filth. It was a nightmare. What was happening on that street in the evenings, on Fridays or Saturdays? Mountains, filth, garbage, nightmare. Well, maybe from time to time, New York needs to be shaken up. Or maybe someone brought Mandani to power to crash the real estate market in the city. And when will they run away from there? And prices will go down. It's just that Nije Valentis will buy everything for a song. And then elect a Republican and clean the city of the wicked. This resembles the attack on the pound sterling during Soros's younger days. So far, even before the new generation entered Maria, taking over the rooms of the rotten bureaucracy with the happy squeals of progressive piglets, everything that Mandani promised turns into radio. And also with deepening mockery and contempt for the idiots who, shouting enthusiastically, went to the slaughter and raised him to the top. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the higher you climb, the more it hurts to fall, Comrade Mandani. Until we meet again.